Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching The Right Path. I'm your host Ridasha. As a child is born and the journey continues from the mother's womb to the mortal life and then death arrives. The child opens his or her eyes to the warm embrace of the parents, both mother and father. Affection, behavior from them is what molds a child's behavior and makes them into decent human beings. The place of our parents is irreplaceable, and today this topic will be discussed as it is very close to my heart, and I'm sure yours as well. In conversation with Dr. Kaval Kaisar about the importance of this relationship and realizing that parents are indeed irreplaceable. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahiba, how are you?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
So, Dr. Sahiba, we know that all over the world, parents and children, the relationship is very, very rare and very, very special. And some people term it as the most truest and honest form of relationship that ever exists.
Indeed it is.
And so, if we think about it in terms of Islam, how much emphasis has the religion Islam placed on this relationship of parents and children, and what role do children have in order to serve their parents and be obedient to them?
You have picked a very important topic for today's discussion, Rida, because I think in these times and changing times with a lot of pressures, this is something that we need to have a lot of clarity on. When we talk about the relationship of parents with children, it's very interesting that in Quran we find out that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about relationship of parents with their kids, so there is a reminder that they are a test for you.
Okay.
Why? Because parents have natural tendency to take care of their kids. Whether the kids like it or not, they want it or not, they call out for it or not, but parents will automatically take care of their kids. Now, when it comes to the other way around, when the kids to the parents, and we find out in all places in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you need to have beautiful dealing with your parents.
Indeed.
And in many places in Quran we find out when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about his right, his being the creator and oneness of himself, that we need to listen to him, we need to bow down to him. And then he immediately talks about the parents and he says, وَبِالْ وَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, have a beautiful dealing with your parents. So that means children, they probably have a tendency to drift away from their parents when they are grown up because they have their own challenges, their own life, their own ambitions, and sometimes they start taking in this whole process their kids for granted.
Right.
And for all this, what we have to understand is that is why it is important for children to give them this reminder that your parents are there, now they
Right.
need you, and now be there for them. Then as we move on in Quran, we find out in Surah Al-Isra, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says a very specific word that if you find both of them or one of them in the old age, do not even utter oof to them.
Yes.
Now this expression is very important. Oof is not even like your body language. It's like something that you feel in your heart when sometime your mom or your dad says, beta, it's cold, wear a jacket, or beta, you know, sit under the fan, or you sit over here, or let me
Yes.
take care of you. And we're like, God, what's wrong with my mom, dad? I'm grown up, give me my space. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, don't even utter an oof to them. So this is the kind of relationship boundary that has been given to us regarding our parents, especially when they're growing old and you are becoming more independent in your life.
That is true because, and like you said, it comes naturally to you when your parents tell you something and you're like, oof. So how to instill that kind of respect and emotion within a child to not even think about something like this, even as a reflex?
For one thing, we have to understand the emphasis that has been laid on this relationship by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have been told in one of the narration by the Prophet ﷺ that if your father is happy with you, they are your gateway towards Jannah. Then serving your mother is also something which adds on barakah in this life as well, a lot of blessings in this life, but at the same time, again, they will help you go towards Jannah. But from our own perspective, if we look at it from the like day-to-day challenges and how we become responsible in that attitude, we need to basically see where our parents love and affection is coming from. Sometimes what we call is their nagging behavior, or why don't they understand, why are they trying to control my life, or why are they not giving me any space. We have to see that there's certain traits that only parents will carry. For example, they will always be making comparisons. No matter how hard they try and they read about it and someone reminds them not make comparison, but since they see their own kid at such a status as if no one else can, so they want you to be excelling in every area. So no matter how hard they try, they would always look around that if there is any competition with their kid. Second important thing that we find out when we talk about parents is that they are never going to be satisfied with you. Why? Again, they put you at such a big pedestal. My kid, my boy, my girl. And that's what they want to see you, like as a very special person, like they see you growing up. So they want to enjoy your accomplishments. And that is why it is important for us to learn that where this love is flowing from and why, how it is reflecting in their behaviors. And we will never be able to understand and empathize with them or show respect towards them and build that relationship with them unless we understand that this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid a lot of emphasis on. Like if you look at the Western cultures, and now this is also happening in our societies, old homes are growing. Because people don't want to take care of or don't want to spend so much time with their own parents. And they're trying to put them in some nursing cares so that they're free to carry on with their own life.
Yeah, but I don't think that is acceptable in the religion, because it is our responsibility as kids, because when we were young, they took care of us. They taught us how to speak, they taught us how to walk, they took care of all of us. They were the reasons behind our education and everything like that.
In fact, the word that you just said, that when we were young, they took care of us. There is a very beautiful dua that we make, the supplication that we make for our parents. Rabbi irhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. Oh Allah, please have mercy towards them as they were merciful towards us when we were young. Like sometimes when mothers, they come to me and they ask me with a newborn baby that why my kid is crying at night and I have to be up the whole night. And I always joke about it. I tell them that the baby is testing if my mom is real or not. Because it's only real mom who would be able to have sleepless nights and still hold the baby.
Sacrifice their own sleep.
Sacrifice not only just sleep, sacrifice everything, their own entertainment, their own fun, their own food, their own pains and agonies. Like sometimes young girls, they also discuss with me, they are like, my mom, she doesn't have a dress sense, or my mom, she doesn't do this and that. And I always ask them, did you ever go and talk to your mom and ask her why not? Because in her budget, she has to first take care of your long list.
Exactly.
You know, you want new dresses, you want a smartphone, and you are going here and there, and she's trying to take care of your needs. So she's left with very bare minimum to spend on herself. And apart from that, she's spending so much time in the kitchen. And that is why she doesn't have time. So if you give her enough space, enough money and everything, she would be able to do that.
Yes, mothers indeed are a beautiful creation, and God Almighty also attributes himself to being like a mother, caring like a mother, loving like a mother, loving 70 mothers. So that shows us the importance and the significance of the love that exists between a mother and a child, and indeed it is irreplaceable. So we also hear the famous saying that the heaven lies beneath the feet of a mother. So in light of this saying and this belief system, how important do you think it is for us to realize it and empathize with our mothers as well?
There is one very beautiful story that a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked, who has the most right on me? And the Prophet responded by saying, your mother. He asked again, said mother. Third time again, the answer was mother. And the fourth time he said father. So mothers have 3 times more share of their kids than the father. And if you look at it very logically, we see mothers are the one who are always there for the kids, because the father, what he's doing is he's out of home, he's busy in his work, he's earning for the family, he's providing all sort of protection and support otherwise. But kids are more exposed to mothers, and that is why a lot of time kids are taking moms for granted. Oh, mom, I can
she's
get
always
done.
there.
She's always there. Or I can always manipulate. It's my dad in front of whom I have to act like a most obedient kid, and I have to say, yes, dad, yes, I'll do it, or I just have to be quiet in front of him. But for mothers, we have a different standard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take care of mothers. Even in Quran, we find out that repeatedly he talks about those moments when she was carrying the baby in her womb, and how hard it was for her, how difficult it was for her. She actually puts her life at stake
Yes.
to give birth to a baby. And a lot of time when kids are growing up and they're like, so why did you have me? Why did you plan to have me? I didn't want to be here.
I didn't ask to be born.
I didn't ask you, but did you take permission from me? Did you ask me?
Yeah, you're not doing me a favor.
Yes, you didn't take permission from me or anything like that. So these are hurtful remarks when parents, they are older and they have to listen from their kids. That is why Islam lays a lot of stress. Even when you're young, you have to go by the system and the foundation that is laid by your parents. But especially when they are older and they are turning into babies, that's when we
Yes.
need to acknowledge everything they did for us and be gentle towards them and be thankful towards them. That is what is expected of us, and take good care of them.
Right. And these are the expectations from us. So what are some of the rewards that are mentioned in the Quran and in the Sunnah regarding respectful progeny? If you're a respectful, obedient child and you respect your parents a lot, so what awaits such a person?
For one thing, there is a lot of barakah in your life. You feel those blessings. Secondly, we find out is that they are gateway to Jannah. Like entry to Jannah is easy. Thirdly, you will find out that your own kids also take that impact, because obviously when you're taking care of your parents, so that impact and that role modeling is going down to your own kids. They understand what's the status of the parents. We also find out from some of the narrations in the hadith that if you are running short of your risk, like you feel that you're short of money, you're short of resources, then not intentionally that way, but if you're taking good care of your parents, so again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expands your risk, expands your whatever tangible or intangible things that you are required. So it's like a very, very I would say unexplainable kind of a feel when you're taking care of your parents, and how much Allah blesses us for that.
Exactly, and not just in Akhirah, but this life as well. Like you've mentioned that there is an increase in your risk as well, and you become a better human being, and God bless you with a lot if you're taking care of your parents. And I think that the mothers and the father love, it comes naturally, and your love is naturally there as well. But it just needs a little bit of more thought, a little bit of more respect is associated with as well. And like you said, that because our parents, especially our mothers, are always there for us, so we tend to take that for granted. But we need to realize that this is the most irreplaceable bond ever. Anyone else in your life can be replaced except for a mother and a father.
True, so true, Rida. Once I was talking to some youngsters in one of my class, and we were talking about parents and their love and attachment. So I asked the whole class to pull out their cell phones, and I told them to either call or send a message to their mom or dad and say, I love you. And it was such an emotional moment. In fact, many of the students said, we have never ever uttered these words to our parents, and we are finding it so hard to call and actually talk about it. And some of my students, they came to me and they were crying, and they were like, when we said this to our parents, so they actually felt so proud of us, and they sent us very sentimental messages that we are proud of you and we are proud of your accomplishments. And in fact, one girl came to me and she said, my mom immediately called me and said, is everything okay? Do you need some money? Do you need something from me?
It was so unexpected.
Yes, it was so unexpected. So it is very important that when we are expecting our parents to do so much for us, and we are always like, I need this and that, we need to be there for their needs. and
Exactly.
understand and have some compassion and consideration for them.
Right. And when it comes to mothers, okay, we have a natural inclination towards them. But I feel there's a lot of gap between the relationship of a father and a son or a daughter, because the father is out, and when they come back from work, they're so tired and they hardly have any time. And especially the men in our society, they're less expressive and they don't tend to be affectionate. Now I'm not talking about the general everyone. There are few people
Yeah.
who are affectionate and everything, but the majority of them I've seen around me that they're less affectionate and everything like that. So I think that has kind of an adverse effect on the relationship between the father and the child. So in light of that, what will be your advice to strengthen that bond?
Again, I would look into the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we find out that every time Fatima radiallahu anha would visit him, or he would go to visit her, she would stand up and he would also stand up, and he
In
would kiss
respect.
her, irrespective, he would kiss her on the forehead, and he would always be very kind and gentle towards her, asking her how she's doing, and they would both be exchanging notes on different things. She would always be there by him whenever he was opposed by the people in the Makkah, and she would be always standing beside him, and she always greeted him well. So that's the kind of relationship the fathers need to have with their kids, boy or a girl. Yes, there is one big challenge because they have to be on the earning end, so
Yes.
they are out of home the whole day. But over the weekend, rather than watching a sports channel or just enjoying your social media, the fathers need to put everything away and have some quality time with their kids. I would also advise the mothers, because sometimes what the mothers do is they are either maintaining a distance between the kids and the father, so that there is someone that the kids take seriously, and every time they would say, let your dad come and
I
I'm going
will
to talk to him
complain,
and I'll
yeah.
complain about whatever issue or challenge is there. So they need to work on bridging that gap, not in a way that they become sandwiched between them and they're listening to both ends of complaints, but basically like working on that relationship and giving them space to be together. This will also give some time for mothers to, so that they can also work on their burnout and unwind themselves whenever they're stressed out.
That is good advice. And I believe that the gap that exists, mothers kind of tend to somewhat take it for granted as well.
Yeah.
Because they're like, okay, the kids are more inclined towards me and they fear
My party.
yeah,
They're
my
my
party.
party.
And then sometimes the mothers also infiltrate their
Yeah.
children's mind as well. If there's some domestic issue that is going
Yes.
on between the husband and the wife, do never include your kids
No,
in it,
never.
because that distastefulness then exists within the kids as well.
Actually,
And
we
then
need to give children enough space so that they can assess their own relationships,
exactly.
work on their own relationships, and understand the nature of whatever relationship they are around them.
Exactly. Okay, so up till now we have talked about the importance of good relationship with the parents, where the parents are always very supportive and affectionate. Now there's a twist to that side as well. Sometimes the parents are being unjustifiably harsh towards their towards their children, and they somehow subject them to a lot of emotions, negative emotions, and that can lead to a far-reaching impact on the child's life. So at what level should the children observe obedience when it comes to such parents who are not really good at the parenting aspect of it?
Rita, with passage time, I'm seeing a lot of kids coming up and actually talking about the serious challenges that they are facing at the hands of their parents. Now, as I see it, is that most of the parents in this category, they have their own challenges
Right.
from their childhood till they're grown up and even now, and the unresolved issues that they're carrying with themselves, which has badly impacted their health, especially mental health. And because of that, they are not able to maintain healthy relationship with their kids. Now, yes, it is not justified that the parents should be treating their kids like that, but the point is, now what is done is done.
Right.
And if you feel the need that I need to work on the relationship with my parents, so you need to take that first step towards your parents. Like we find out in one narration that one of the companions, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and said that since I became Muslim, my mother, she yells at me, she shouts and screams at me and really treats me very badly. What am I supposed to do with her? And the Prophet ﷺ told him, go back and serve your mother. The only place where you're going to draw a certain line is the boundary that you are a believer, you are a Muslim, and she's still not a believer.
Right.
So even in Quran we find out the only time when we can refuse our parents is when they are turning us from Islam or telling us to do something which is not Islamic. But apart from that, yes, there are going to be times when there can be some sort of emotional abuse, some sort of physical abuse, and you might feel traumatized at the hands of the parents. So advice to all those youngsters is go to some expert counselor, take some help on, learn some skills that you can apply over there in dealing with your parents, and avoid that toxicity, or how you can mend your ways and get over that hurt that you're feeling at the hand of your parents, because you have to start treating them like some mentally sick patient, and have some empathy for them, that they had their unresolved challenges, and rather than working on those challenges, they invested in us.
Yes.
So let us be there for them and help them out and reach out for them, depending upon the situation, because sometimes the situation can be extremely toxic. There are even cases of abuses that come across. So in those situations, yes, then you can consult some scholar and maintain a certain level of distance and privacy from them. But these cases are on the rise, and they're a big concern for me as well, because again, the new generation has not learned the skills, and the older generation are living also in their own bubbles, so they don't know how to come out of their challenges and be there for their kids.
Yeah, so at this time, I think it is very important to become a bridge between them, and the only way to do that is through effective communication.
Exactly.
And so you've said that the only time where you draw a line is when the question of faith comes.
Yes.
And other than that, you should never give up on your parents. You should always try to mend the relationship, and always try to aim for a balance between a healthy relationship between them.
Like, we always need to have a lot of inputs in the relationship, rather than having withdrawals, like talking to them, sitting with them, then taking care of them, then giving credit to them for all your accomplishments, that you are the one who helped me be here where I am, rather than saying, oh, you were too busy earning, or you were too busy in the kitchen, you were too busy fighting with each other, and I was the one who was struggling and taking care of myself. Yes, it might be true in some of the cases, some exceptional cases, but still they did try some way or the other. So we need to understand their challenges.
Exactly. I once went to an ED old age home, and over there I saw all these old parents, and none of them ever complained about their child. All of them said, oh, my children were the best. Okay, some circumstances came that I am here. Oh, because of my daughter-in-law, I am here. But I saw this one feeling that all of them had, was a constant love for their children. Exactly. And that is a selfless kind of a thing, and that will never be found anywhere else.
Yes, never.
So do you think parents should also draw a line when it comes to something like this? They should identify their children's mistakes and also highlight them and talk to them about this. Okay, you're not treating me right, instead of just accepting everything that the child does.
Yes, this is an enabling kind of a behavior where you are putting up a nice picture, though you are badly hurt inside on the treatment that has been given to you. Your kid might be a good kid, but doesn't understand that what he is doing not only for his dunya, but also his akhirah. Like, even in this world, when you are not spending or not taking care of your parents, you are not going to get all those blessings. Allah is going to withhold everything from you. Because this is such a beautiful relationship, and this is one relationship in which we need to have heavy investment. And since when the parents they're going to be old, they will definitely have certain behaviors which will be difficult for us to handle. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us not to have even that body language to refuse them. So it is important that parents, they have certain saying in their kids' life. But yes, sometimes when they are growing old and they're too old, and the kids are too busy in their own life, and then they just, sometimes they fizzle out, they're too busy with their own kids, their own families, and then the pressures of the society and materialism, they suck them up. and it is a big tragedy, I would say.
It is indeed. So, do you think we can ever pay back to our parents like we celebrate Mother's Day and Father's Day occasionally? And what is your view of those days, celebrating those days in light of Islam? And is there any way that we can actively work on giving back to our parents?
We can never pay back our parents. Once a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said that I took my mother and I put her back on my shoulders at the back, and I took her around for Hajj.
Wow.
So did I in any way repaid her for whatever she had done for me? And he said that you had not even paid for one night that she was up for you. So this is the kind of status our parents have. We can never ever repay them for what they have done for us, even if there have been times when they had been very angry towards us, but still. So that is like one thing that important that we have to understand. Now when it comes to Mother's Day and Father's Day, we have to understand, we in Islam every day for us is like a Mother's Day and Father's Day. That is why Islam is not in favor of these particular celebrations. Sometimes I've come across people who say now is the time because our kids are not actually spending time with their parents, so it is important that we can highlight this importance through Mother's Day and Father's Day. I still don't agree with it. I feel that it is important that rather than having those particular days, we focus on the teachings of Quran and the way it tells us to highlight this, the status of the parents and our interaction with them. So we'll focus that way. Every day for us is when I have to be with my mom, I have to hug my mom, I have to take care of my father, I have to be talking to them, I have to be taking care of their needs. And remember, when they're growing old, yes, they might have health issues and they might have other challenges, but the most important need they have is they want our time.
Exactly.
They want that feeling that our kids are there, and they want us to acknowledge whatever they have done for us.
Exactly. Prioritizing them is very important, and they don't even need material things from us. They want our love and affection, and at that moment I think it is very needed by them, because they're at a certain age, they have lost their friends and families and their youth and everything like that. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that it is important to keep that in mind in order to move forward. Okay, so if we now talk about orphans, kids their parents passed away early in their lives, and they go through a lot because I think the shadow of a parent is very important to prosper. What kind of role models are there for kids who don't have their parents with them?
We find out that Islam lays a lot of stress on taking care of the needs of the orphans. And in that area, we find out that if in one narration, Prophet ﷺ said that anyone who takes care of an orphan is going to be with me in Jannah like this, like these two fingers, that close. We also find out someone who takes care of an orphan, and especially like their needs and everything, and in the custody or something like that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala softens their heart. So working with orphans is like, it melts your heart, and you feel like goodness coming in.
Exactly.
So yes, they have these needs. Once I remember I went to this place where one of the orphanage, and we went with a big group of children, and we provided them with a lot of material things, and it brought tears in my eyes when the in charge told me that a lot of people come in, walk in, and they bring a lot of goods for these kids, especially even in the month of Ramadan and Eid day. But what these kids look forward to is company of people. And people don't have time to come and actually sit down with these kids, read them storybooks, talk to them, play with them, spend some healthy time with them. So that is their need, which needs to be catered.
I think we have established this, that it is very important to invest your time in your relationship with your parents as well, and in with people who have lost their parents in the process as well. So lastly, I would like you to narrate some of the stories of the Prophet, peace be upon him, because we know he was an orphan as well, how he dealt with elders, because I think this is also very important to address in this conversation that I'm having with you, the role of grandparents in our lives as well. So can you highlight quickly a little bit about that?
I especially was thinking about the time when once after the prophethood, he was traveling from Makkah to Medina, and with the permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he visited that spot where he had lost his mother. And when he sat over there, he started talking about his mother, and the tears were rolling down his cheeks, and he was crying, and he was explaining to the companions how his mother used to take care of him and how he used to play around her. And when he went for that trip to Medina and he met many of his cousins and his family members, what kind of interactions he had. And the companions, they were crying and crying and crying. And it is such a touchy moment for me the first time that when I read this story, because from our childhood in our Islamic studies we read about the Prophet,
Yes.
that he lost his father when he was not even born, he was 6 years old when he's lost his mother, and we read everything in a very technical manner. Even for the
Exactly.
grandfather, we find out when he was taking care of the Prophet ﷺ and when he passed away. So people saw this funeral going, and there was a young boy who was going behind the funeral and he was crying. So that is why we find out, since Prophet had lost his parents, he had lost his grandfather in his lifetime. So with all these elements, he had this empathy towards orphans. He had this
Exactly.
empathy where he would always guide people to take care of their parents and take care of the orphans. Like one day on Eid, while he was coming back after the prayer, and he saw this young boy who was sitting with very sadly. So he asked him, why are you sitting like that? He said, I don't have any parents, so I don't know what to do on Eid day. So the Prophet ﷺ said to him, would you like if Muhammad ﷺ is your father and Aisha anha is your mother? And it lit up the face of the boy, and he stood up and he said, why not? So he took him along and he got him all the clothes and he celebrated that Eid day with him. So
Wow.
these kind of emotions he generated, and these are the kind of activities. We find out so many people who after Eid prayer, they just sleep,
Exactly.
or they say Eid is the most boring day of our life. So this is the time, or this is the kind of activity we need to have, like spending time with our own family members, especially our parents,
Exactly.
and taking them around to visit their friends and be there for them if they want any kind of service, and at the very same time also visiting some of the orphans.
Exactly. That is, I think, beautifully said, beautifully put. And I think the major takeaway is to invest our time and energies in our parents as well, and in those who've lost their parents. And on this note, we'll conclude today's transmission. Thank you so much, Dr. Kanwar. And we realize the importance of parents. I'm sure everyone deep in their hearts know this, but it is time that we actively invest in our relationship with our parents, build them stronger, and also invest a lot of time in it. On this note, I'll bid you farewell. Take care. Allah Hafiz.